We are joined by Alamogordo Public Schools Athletic Director, Dr. J.L. Walker. Dr. Walker, how are you doing today?
I'm doing just great. How about yourself?
Fantastic. And first off, asking everybody in your family, everybody doing well and enjoying the summers the best they can?
They're doing the best that they can.
Yeah.
They're staying healthy. They're staying cautious, and they're staying busy at the house. They're enrolled in summer classes and all those things, and so they definitely have their hands full this summer.
Yeah, I am sure. As will, I'm sure, all educators as we get ready for the school year. But yeah, we were just talking off air a little bit. This is, such an unusual situation. I think the biggest part of all of this is everybody is kind of figuring this out as they go along. Is that the best way you could probably describe it? Is that this is unbroken ground and trying to figure out how to do this correctly, right?
It's definitely new territory for everyone. We're the kind of people that like to know what's going on ahead of advance, have a little control of our situation. But this particular situation has us with no control. It's very fluid. You can make a decision today, and that decision gets turned around on tomorrow. So it's difficult to navigate through because the information you have may not be good information 2 hours later. So when you're trying to communicate and let people know where we are, you have to be very clear that the situation is fluid and things could change, things could be erased, and some things will get redrawn. But we always have to be mindful and flexible about what's going on moving forward.
Well, and something else, you kind of touched on it right before we started. We definitely want to think of the seniors in the class of 2020 because, especially for the kids that didn't get to compete at the end of the year, but all the seniors overall. And you were somebody that, was right in the middle of that, having to make decisions left and right. A lot of it was out of your hands. But I can only imagine how challenging and how probably what I thought was, gut-wrenching for that group of seniors that didn't get to finish the way that they wanted to.
Yeah, it was devastating. I don't know a better word for that. It was a punch in the gut. Those seniors were robbed. They were robbed of a spring season where we were posed, to bring home trophies, especially in the area of track. We were looking forward to bringing home blue trophies. And these kids had pushed and they had worked out and sacrificed all this time for the culmination of not being able to complete or compete for the rest of their season. It hurt to see. It really hurt to see. But it was a situation that we could not control. It was a situation that was out of our hands. And we had to do the best thing that we could do to make a decision for these kids to be safe and to one day get back out there and play again.
Yeah, and I was in here with the golf kids, I think, the week of things starting to get shut down. And I almost didn't want to say we didn't know what was going to happen there. But, I think they probably even felt that it was just so much uncertainty that was going on there. But, yeah, golf, track and field, baseball, softball, tennis, just hurts for you. And then I think overall just you and me, we got those experiences at the end of our senior year, whether it was sports or whether it was just, graduation being the way that it is or going to prom or going to those things.
Exactly.
It's unfortunate. But, there's also part of me that feels like those kids, they'll find a way to fight through it and be stronger out of it. And because I don't want to be, so negative with it. It's something that they'll find a way to battle through. I'm sure you feel the same way about those youngsters.
I do. When we first began to read about everything, we just thought it was a movie. Maybe it's a movie script. This cannot be true. This is not possible. But as we begin to look more at the news and hear more about the positive cases, we realize this wasn't a movie. This is our new reality. And those seniors, I commend them because they learned so much through this process to be strong and to stand up for themselves. And a lot of them begin to self-advocate, looking at colleges, and they begin to have their own watch parties. They begin to support one another. And our coaches stood tall through this situation. They were contacting kids, seeing how they were doing. Our principals were concerned about the kids at their mental health. They were checking in on them. And so it rose something inside of our community that we became more than sports. It became more than activity. We became a community of support, passion, and caring about one another. So I think it awakened something new in our community that when we get back out there, the pride that we'll show will be greater than it was before we left out of there.
And I would say the appreciation for just having a Friday night football game, having a Tuesday evening soccer match or volleyball, things like that. I think everybody's really going to appreciate the chance to go out there and do those sort of things. I'm sure you can't wait for the possibility of those kind of sporting events going on again.
Oh, I'm biting at the bit for this. But, usually during our summer workouts and stuff like that, people just, the attention and the volunteering is not as much, but being able to go out there and condition and exercise has been something that people have hoped for. And now you see more participation because now they're allowed and released to do something they weren't allowed and released to do before. So the appreciation is out there, just knowing that we have hope to move forward. So this has presented different options and different things, not only to our student athletes, but to our coaches to maximize the moments that we have with these kids and to let them know that even though something crazy or negative can happen, we can turn negative into a positive and we can use it to our advantage.
So we've had a few sports that have started doing some activities, such as cheer and Tiger football, and there'll be more, I think, after the 4th of July holiday. There'll be a few more programs that'll be getting started as well. What's been the kind of feedback you've been getting, whether it's been from coaches or from the athletes, in terms of how things have gone so far?
There is an air of excitement that is in the atmosphere. It's an excitement to know that we're able to get back out there. We're able to come from our homes and see your old teammates and build chemistry and start building relationships and start building some sweat equity, out there on those courts and in those fields. Even though we have restriction, it's one thing to talk to somebody on the phone, but to see them is something different. The feedback that I'm seeing from our coaches is that they're excited to be able to start again. They're able to begin to scheme again, to be able to plan again, to be able to see reality, set in where there's a possibility that we get things rolling again in the fall. So it brings an air of excitement, and I've seen our community smile. It gives awareness to let people know that we are on your side and that we're doing our best to move forward.
And I appreciate the creativity that I'm sure some coaches are having to come up with in terms of doing workouts. I saw some of the pictures from the football. They've got the bench presses and everything out there on the south side of the end zone. So they're getting the guys out there doing weights along with some of the other workouts. It's kind of cool seeing what the coaches are having to come up with to try and make this work somehow.
Yeah, it comes down to how bad do you want it? How bad do you really want to do this? And if you want it bad enough, not only for the program and for your kids and for yourselves, you'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. We are out there with restrictions, but the restrictions are there to keep us safe. But if you want it bad enough, you'll come up with some creative ways to get the results that you're looking for. So rather than our coaches out there complaining about the restrictions and complaining about what they can't do, they're finding a ways to find things they can do with a positive attitude. And so you'll see those benches out there, outside, and you'll see kids out there doing calisthenics outside. You'll see the basketball team running, laps outside. You'll see the volleyball team running, and it's because they want to compete again. And whatever it takes to do that, they're willing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Last week, I know there was a school board meeting, and they're determining more stuff in regards to the education part of it. But I know for you, obviously, being involved with Academy del Sol for so long, and being an educator, that's we talk about the sports part of it with you being the athletics director, but obviously the education part of it is number one, and trying to get that working, and that's going to kind of lean into what we'll get with sports, is making sure the education part of it goes well, right?
That's true. Without kids being safe to go back to school, there would be no sports. And our first primary function, they are student athletes, students first. So we want them back in the classrooms, and we have to do our part to get them back in there. There are questions and concerns right now that if we go into a hybrid situation, can kids compete? That's still on the table. It's still a discussion that's out there, in our state to know if we can or can't do it. But first and foremost, we're about education. We're about them being highly astute. We're about them being able to succeed and take this to the next level, whether it's athletics or it's just in the classrooms, education-wise or academically. but we have to be able to get them back in the school first, and that's our primary objective.
Yeah, and I know that's going to be a challenge for everybody, but I think, along the same lines you were just talking about athletics, the coaches are working hard, but the teachers, and of course most of the coaches that you have are teachers as well, and they're going to be working to try to make sure that it works as well as it can. It's not going to be nothing that happens probably over the next 6 to 12 months is going to be ideal, but it'll find a way to work somehow.
It will. We've always been a group of relentless community that finds a way to survive. Our teachers and our educational assistants, they sometimes become underappreciated and undervalued. Our secretarial staff, administrative assistants, they become undervalued sometimes. But this is the very support that's bracing our community and supporting us to get back out to where we need to actually be. So while we're at home discussing hybrid situations, they're here at work trying to make it work. They're trying to find ways to educate kids while dealing with their own kids. They're trying to find ways to academically make them successful while they have their own problems at home. So we have to understand that they are all trying to work in the same capacity, and they want the same things that we all want. We want our kids successful. We want them to get educated, and we do want them to get back in school. But until it does, we have to make a plan and commit to something so that we know that no matter what happens, our kids will be taken care of.
Yeah, and I would think a lot of parents out there are far more appreciative of teachers and everybody that works in schools based on those last 2 or 3 months of school. Everybody was talking about, boy, the homeschooling stuff is really challenging. I would think after all that, the appreciation of our educators was probably skyrocketed around the entire country.
It was, because it's not easy when you have to be parent and teacher at the same time. And I think they discovered that it's a difficult thing, to do it from home while they experience their own issues. There's an economic fallout that's happening as well. Parents have to take off work to be home with children. There's an uncertainty of how things will change, and you got to deal with this kid being bored and this kid being overexcited, as well as the clock doesn't ring and the bells don't chime and they don't switch classes. You're there with them all day long and all night long, and I know they would appreciate being able to have their kids safe at school again.
Yes, and of course being there with their friends and everything that goes along with the school experience.
Definitely.
And yeah, it's definitely continues to be one of those the change situations. I don't know, how much conversation are you having with other athletic directors and other people around the state about what the plan is going forward? Obviously, so much can change, but I don't know if you can give any insight into what seems to be the talk over how sports may be done outside of the workouts and what we may see in the fall, or is it still everybody's kind of we don't really know?
Well, there's so many plans out there that it's hard to land on one thing. I mean, there's been discussions about, because right now we're still in phase 1. We have not moved into phase 2. We're still in phase 1 where we're, one coach and 5 kids in a pod. And we're hoping to go to phase 2 where there's one coach and 10 kids. When it comes to playing the actual sport and being able to compete, we have to be in phase 3 to actually, begin to do those things. And so if we do get to phase 3, there's been talks about maybe delaying the season. There's been talks about maybe flipping seasons where spring goes into fall and fall goes into spring. There's been talks about moving all sports to begin in January. But we won't know what we're going to do or what the plan really is until probably mid-July, when the NMAA begins to talk more about the delivery. Because in order for us to be prepared, we got to have time to do that. And so they kind of told us to be patient, hold out a little bit, give things some time. And mid-July, we'll have more of an idea of how fall sports is going to look and how the rollout is going to be planned.
And I know there's I'm sure there's people frustrated one way or the other about how things are moving along, but I got to commend the NMAA and the folks at the Public Education Department. I think they've been, at the end of the day, I think they're trying to do the best they can, and the same goes for everybody at the local level, at the local school districts. You feel like communication, everything has gone well in terms of hearing from the top down, from the Education Department and the NMAA. Has it worked well for you in the athletics department?
It's gone the best that it can. I mean, it's really hard to have concrete communication when things are so fluid.
Yeah.
We have so many, polarized views about what we should do, what we shouldn't do, and what the CDC says, Department of Health says. But I believe the unified vision that everybody does have is that they really want things to be safe for kids. And ultimately, everybody's working towards coming out of these phases into having full contact in school. And I commend them for taking the necessary steps and not trying to make this a sprint, but actually making this a slow walk, that we actually do it right. I think it'd be difficult for us to just sprint into phase 3 and then have to go back to phase 1. So they're putting out the necessary guidance, the guidelines. They're putting down the necessary steps. They're in communication with us, and they're allowing us some freedoms as we launch out the guidelines to make it best for kids. So I do think that, New Mexico in a whole has done this well. Maybe some people may disagree because we want to get out there real fast, but sometimes in the rush for normalcy, we miss a few things, and we can't afford to miss things right now, as dangerous as things are at this moment. So we wish that we can move forward a little bit faster, but at the same time, I'm glad that we're cautious about what we're doing.
And I know that there's also, they've opened it up from a standpoint of that it could be, different regions. Obviously, we've been, I think, pretty fortunate here in Otero County with cases and things such as that certain parts of the state may be able to move a little bit faster than others. Is that something else that you're hearing as well from them?
Yeah, discuss that too. But in all fairness, they want to make sure that it's equitable around the whole state. So they're waiting to make that decision before they, not include everyone into our planning, which means if they do that, we're going to have to do some rescheduling of games and rescheduling of calendars. But the ultimate goal is to make sure that all kids are safe and all kids can compete.
Yeah, and you talk about scheduling. That's going to be, regardless of what happens, I'm sure scheduling is going to be, it's challenging to begin with in a regular year. In a pandemic year, I can't even imagine how challenging it is for you and everybody in the athletics staff. It's going to be a different kind of world for you all when it comes to that, isn't it?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, they've told us to hold out until the announcement mid-July. They said don't jump on it just yet. We're rescheduling because our scheduling issue is also a consequence of our transportation issues.
Yeah.
So every program has to look at their transportation situation and base their scheduling depending on what they can do in the transportation department.
And the overarching thing out of all of this is going to be budget as well, because I think every school district and every athletics department is going to face a different world, I'm sure, when it comes to budgetary needs and things, especially if there's games that are going on without fans, just like we see it at the pro level, at the high school level. It's going to be incredibly challenging for you, isn't it?
It will be, dealing with a situation where it's, gateless or ticketless, where you have to pay online and no money's being exchanged, is something that we're going to have to, transition into, because the reality of it is, if we're able to get back out there, we're going to be limited on the fan support, who can come, who's not able to come. We have to start looking at different technological issues and things that we can do to support our children and our students and our student athletes to be viewed and watched, and spectators to be able to see it streaming live. So there's a lot of adjustments we have to make, and we all know that the beginning of the year, it sets the tone for the rest of the year, especially financially with our gate receipts. And so we're going to find a lot of programs going to have to make a lot of changes, and us included, as moving forward. So we're going to have to be creative, and we're going to have to ask for our community to help and support our kids going forward.
But I think, to kind of wrap things up, the big thing is I know that, all the coaches, yourself, everybody involved with Alamogordo Public Schools athletics and Alamogordo Public Schools, the biggest thing that you all want to do is making sure that you're supporting the students as best you can. That I imagine that's your biggest goal.
That is the biggest goal. We want to make sure that our kids get support and they're heard and they're understood. During this time they could be confused, because they feel as if, adults are making decisions for them. Some could feel as if, as kids, you're ruining my life. You're not letting me play. And who are you to say that I can't do this? We're safe. It's okay. and they don't understand the pandemic that we're into. As we use wisdom and caution, we have to listen to them and support them so they understand that we're here for you. We want to see this happen for you. We're not trying to hold you back, but we're trying to make sure that we can let you go and it's safe to do so. So we have to, as a community of Tigers, understand where they're at, understand their frustration, understand their heartache and their willingness to get back out there and be supportive. So I'm asking, everybody to, whether you feel you need to wear a mask or not, it's just be cautious enough because your caution will let us have a season. So it's all of us to be responsible because your irresponsibility can affect the way we see our fall.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Walker, we'll definitely keep touch with you as things go on. Certainly in the middle of July, it sounds like we'll have a better idea of what's coming for fall sports and just sports in general. And so we'll look forward to getting some more info on that. And as always, we appreciate your time and look forward to seeing what happens over the next couple months.
We'll definitely be right here, and I'll let you know what happens. We're looking at mid-July, hoping to get back out there. And as they promised, we will play again.